So this is Einstein's special relativity paper from 1905, looked at from the perspective of electric universe theory. The electric universe is at this website mentioned, and they hold things like conferences, etc. And the article I want to look at is this one. As per usual, I'm attracted to anything which mentions Einstein. And the article is by Hafner, and it's called Remarks to Einstein's Electrodynamics of Moving Bodies, and that's his 1905 paper on special relativity. So this is the person who wrote the paper, and he's a volunteer for the Thunderbolt project, and that's part of the electric universe. The electric universe is a group of people who believe in a certain type of theory called the electric universe theory. And his article by Hafner is too long, so I'm only going to highlight some of the things said. And I'm also putting aside the issue that I complain as to how Einstein has been translated into English, and I'm going to go by the usual translation. So the article by Hafner starts: masses are innumerable quantities, whereas forces are caused by electrical charges. And what he's saying seems to be pretty much the perspective of the electric universe theory, that electromagnetism gives rise to gravity. And it's a fairly old idea. As pointed out, it goes back to at least 1836 by Mossotti, who described gravity as the residual force of electrical force. This is Mossotti, and he was an Italian physicist. He was exiled from Italy for his liberal ideas. And as per usual, when students are taught physics, they will not be told of people like this. He influenced Maxwell, and students will be told about Maxwell, but someone like Mossotti will be omitted from mentioning. So don't get told the idea that electromagnetism is supposed to cause gravity. And that's the basics of the electric universe theory, an old idea that gets omitted from being taught to physics students. Anyway, moving on with the article by Hafner. The article says, it is known that Maxwell's electrodynamics, as usually understood at the present time when applied to moving bodies, leads to asymmetries which do not appear to be inherent in the phenomena. And that is what Einstein is saying in his essay on special relativity in 1905. The paper by Einstein being referred to is this one on the electrodynamics of moving bodies by Einstein in 1905. And the quote is from that paper. That's as far into that paper that Hafner gets, because Hafner starts to immediately complain just for that very little bit of what Einstein says. Hafner's comment on what Einstein says is, "What a manipulative claim. Which statistic is this statement based on, and why should a dynamic be symmetrical at all?" And the problem with Einstein's claim is he didn't cite an experiment for what he was basing his claim upon. Hafner continues, "With all due respect, Einstein obviously did not understand electrodynamics, neither that of James Clerk Maxwell based on vortex theory, nor that of Weber's discrete theory. No, he is not referring to any of these papers here, which is quite unusual in science, or did he knowingly try to mislead his readers? ? So Einstein doesn't give references in his paper for what he's working from. But note the mention of vortex theory by Hafner. This is Wikipedia's mention of vortex theory. It was a 19th century attempt to explain why the atoms, which were then recently discovered by chemists, came in relatively only few varieties, but in very great numbers of each kind, based on the idea of stable knotted vortices in the ether. And this is an example of a paper by a historian on the vortex theory, and this person says, "The vortex atom, a Victorian theory of everything." The vortex theory was an attempt at a unified theory of physics, and this was around the time of Einstein, or rather before Einstein. Einstein's paper on special relativity has no citations as to what he was working from, and no references to vortex theory. No indication whether he knew that his contemporary physicists were trying to form a unified theory. So no indication of how what he was saying was supposed to connect with other people's work. Hafner then points out about this person who was thinking about a four-dimensional world before Einstein. Einstein didn't cite this person either, and the four-dimensional space-time, of course, becoming a big feature of special relativity. And this is what Wikipedia has to say about him as on. He was a German astrophysicist who studied optical illusions. He was also an early psychical investigator. Relevant word is psychic. The idea of four dimensions was part of psychic research. Anyway, now let's go on to look at what Einstein's reading list is. At this website, it mentions 7 books that deeply influenced Einstein. So after mentioning a few books, that article then goes on to mention these other books, and the one to note is Blavatsky. So Einstein had a book on that in his personal collection. Now this is Wikipedia on Blavatsky. She was a Russian mystic and author who co-founded the Theosophical Society, and that's all sort of mysticism. And so it makes one wonder, what influence did this lady have on Einstein's ideas? So Einstein had many influences on him from mysticism, and he gave no citations for them. There was a unified theory, for vortex theory, trying to unify electromagnetism and gravity. He didn't cite it. So it seems to be the impetus for ignoring it with a lot of other things when teaching physics students. Because Einstein doesn't mention things, the educators decide to not mention those things as well. However, Wikipedia has no problem citing people saying things similar to Einstein. Skipping on a bit, Huffner says, I also asked myself why Einstein's work from 1905, whose request is so absurd, left such a deep and lasting impression on people that it continues to have an impact today. And he's pointing out the links to mysticism again, and he also points out that maybe it was a reaction to the Catholic Church who made a commandment. So we look at that commandment now. This is what Wikipedia has to say about the commandment from the Catholic Church. It translates into English as feeding the Lord's flock. And the Pope viewed the church as under siege at that time of 1907, intellectually from rationalism and materialism, and politically under siege from liberalism and anti-clericalism. So that was sort of the climate or environment which Einstein was in. The Catholic Church viewed itself under threat from the developments that were happening in society, and Einstein was reading a lot of mystical things, and he wasn't citing it in his special relativity paper. So we've seen some of the references that Einstein should have cited for his ideas in his special relativity paper, and seen some of the ideas that he should have mentioned in his special relativity paper but didn't. The education system omits mentioning that background to physics students. Einstein was in a background of working in an environment where people were saying similar things to him, but earlier. Einstein omits it, seems the reason for why they, the educators, omit it. So from the perspective of the electric universe theory, Einstein's relativity is a mess. Einstein should have given proper citation for what he was working from, but he didn't. Finished, thank you, the end.